You should have the Peanuts entrance to the video. You did.
That's a good. How does it go? All right, hi, it's Andrew from Time and Tide, and we have a fun one today. It is a brand, or two brands in fact, that have collaborated on the Peanuts Bamford times Revolution Joe Cool Snoopy watch. Now, Bamford. This is a brand, Bamford Watch Department, based in London, England, that is run by George Bamford. How do I describe the brand of Bamford? It is a brand of customization and supercharging. In the same way that an M-Series BMW is better than a BMW, in the same way that a AMG Mercedes is better than a standard Mercedes, or an STI Subaru for the Subaru lovers out there like me, this is what George Bamford does to watches. He comes in, looks at aspects that he could change, modernize, make stealthier, make blacker, add personality to, and that's what he does. He was originally known as a black modifier, as in so many of his watches were simply blacked out. However, that myth and legend of this mysterious dark figure who would turn everything dark has changed over the years, and he now does, for example, a Girard-Perregaux Laureato in pure white, which was a pristine vision, a new look for the Laureato. And that's what's happening here with Revolution. But before we get into Revolution's story, I want to talk about my story with George Bamford, because as I've said on many videos, George was this mysterious figure that was very hard to get in contact with for many years. So I would write story after story on Time and Tide, send them to him, send them to his people, try to get his attention, to no avail. COVID changed all that. Somehow we were connected. I don't recall the original spark of connection, but through that connection came this watch that I'm wearing here, which is the Time and Tide Club watch, which was reserved specifically and only for the Time and Tide Club. Now, we're not talking about that watch today. However, there is a video that you can watch about how this watch came to be, as well as the second. I'm going to quickly push the doghouse aside and show you that not only was there our club watch, there was also, and I refer to my trusty monochrome, this is like Wayne's World here. I've got that many product placements. They're all good though. Monochrome Pelly case. And I don't know if you can see, but we have the Time and Tide GMT2 in there. I'm not going to show you too much close vision of that, but we also have, in addition to the sold out Club Time and Tide edition of Bamford, we have this edition too, the GMT2, different color scheme, but same model. And we're going to get to the way all of this is relevant for the Snoopy, because we're talking about exactly the same model of the Bamford GMT. Putting the Pelican case down for a minute, this is of course available on monochrome. It is a lightweight, incredibly tough watch carry case that can be locked. It has automatic pressure stabilization inside the case. It's a really nice, again, tough molded plastic design. This holds 30 watches, it's €399. I recommend it highly for anyone that has far too many watches in their collection that are still mobile. Many people that have massive collections keep them in their safe, whereas monochrome and others, we engender a different style of watch collecting, which is getting them out there, taking them to GTGs, taking them to on your holidays, whatever the case may be. That's the case for it. Let's get back to this doghouse here. The Snoopy Bamford GMT times Revolution. What a fun watch. And it is another example of George Bamford stepping out of that original vision and world of blacked out watches and now doing really interesting things with white, with color. It has already been nicknamed, in addition to its real name, which is the Joe Cool watch, an albino model, because we have white on white on white on the dial. Now, to talk a little bit about the GMT model by Bamford, it is a Sellita movement, the SW300. The crown pulls out to 2 positions. The time is changed on the 2nd position, and on the 1st position you have the GMT hand jumping, which is very easy to operate. Look, before we get into the vital stats of the watch, I just want to talk about its personality. That's why you're buying this watch. I already know, I've just received this today. I'm very excited. There's new doghouse smell, there's new watch smell. This is very, very new. I've hardly even worn the bracelet. This is all about fun, and it's about joy, and it's about the moment when I say to my kids, hey kids, look at my new watch. Now I have a 7-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 5-year-old. Usually this is met with zero interest. I just know, having already shown them a picture, that they're going to be delighted by this one. Seeing the hands of Joe Cool move with the time, just fun. And in this hobby, in this game, we play with watches that cannot be underestimated. That's what's attracted me to this watch in the first place. And now holding it, I can think of so many occasions when a fun watch, a statement watch of sorts, and this simple black and white color scheme means that it's going to go with practically everything you're wearing, including black tie if you wanted to, because we're talking about an 11.7 millimeter thick watch, or thin watch. That's going to make it play very nicely with cuffs. In terms of diameter, it is a 40 millimeter watch in a cushion case style. Now this is a real classic 70s style, retro. Unlike our GMT, this is the gunmetal gray version. We also have a DLC version. This is a really lovely, quite reflective silver that is satin brushed. So we're seeing nice brushwork on the case that's giving it, instead of a super shiny mirror finish, we're getting a reflective but still sort of dulled off silver. Now, in terms of how the watch operates, the crown at, at your 10, this operates the internal rotating bezel, which allows you to set the second time zone. And then, as I said earlier, the main crown is how you operate the time and the GMT function. In terms of how it wears, this is 46.5 millimeters lug to lug, which sits well within that Goldilocks zone of under 50 millimeters. For people with smaller wrists, I have a 7-inch wrist, and again, that's sitting quite flat to the wrist. It has, look, the cushion, because the cushion case flares, it has a little more presence than its 40 millimeter measurement. In terms of functionality of the watch, we have a really useful 100 meters water resistance, which means this is something you could, especially on a holiday where you'd say, I'm going to take a watch from my collection that can handle most of the things that I'll do, but also not be too high value if I knock it around on the plane or decide to jump in the ocean and have the bracelet knock off, which can happen in the Australian surf. This is a really good contender in that way, because it's going to wear comfortably but also be relatively robust. The case material of this watch is 316L steel, which is a great hardy and tough steel. And the movement is a Sellita SW300 movement, which you will find in other more expensive watches. So this is certainly a solid Swiss movement. In terms of power reserve, we have 42 hours. Now, one thing I want to do before we move on is show you how this watch comes when you buy it. It comes in an inner box, or actually there's an inner sleeve, which has Revolution and Bamford branding. Inside that is quite a high box, and inside that box, covered in a nice protective drape, is this doghouse. Now, we get to perhaps not only some of the coolest packaging I've seen in a while, that's really fun, we're also getting to an Easter egg that this watch will only reveal to you when it's nighttime. Now, the character of Joe Cool, this is where we bring him back in. Why choose Joe Cool? There's a couple of reasons for that. Joe Cool is George Bamford and Wei Ko's favorite character from Snoopy, and it's not hard to see why. Wei, he's an Epicurean, a beatnik at heart, a music lover, well-versed in the arts, and Joe Cool is let's just call him this, he is the cooler version of Snoopy. He's the jazz-loving, college-going, as we said, beatnik dog that is kind of Snoopy, more grown up and more cosmopolitan. So the character of the watch that's captured on the dial is a guy in sunglasses. Ironically though, he is a nocturnal beast, and Joe Cool loves the nighttime more than the day, which is why, when we turn off the lights, Joe Cool himself is in a very bright luminous material, and the flange of the GMT, which is a nice shallow flange, which really gives that inner bezel legibility, is also in this luminous material. If you thought that was impressive, this little dog has an even bigger trick in terms of his doghouse. this whole thing lights up. So if you were to charge this during the day every day, leaving it out on a windowsill, at night time, you are gonna see this thing explode. I've never seen anything quite like it. A watch box / doghouse that is fully luminous with a mostly luminous watch inside. The only criticism one could say about this watch is that if you were a very pragmatic person that is a night owl and desperately needs to see the time at night, you will notice that the hands aren't quite as luminous as Joe Cool's body or that inner bezel flange. So you might have to peer a little harder. You'll also note that Woodstock, who is the GMT hand tip, is also luminous, though in the same way that the hands aren't quite matched to the body or the flange, you will see that he does traverse the dial all night, though emanating less light than other parts of the watch. Who cares about that? Frankly, if I need to know the time at night, I just hit my iPhone. What a cool watch. What a fun and meaningful thing that George Bamford brings to the industry. What a summary of what Waco brings to the industry. One of the great raconteurs, one of the great personalities, one of the great sort of traditional gentlemen. I feel like it's all wrapped up in this watch. It's such a pleasure to know both these guys. I'm so happy for them. We've done the video the day we received the watch. Like I said, I've hardly even closed this tang buckle on it, but I had to get this message out to you guys. This is a cool watch. Unfortunately, it is sold out, and I can't offer it to you. I can't point you in a direction to buy it. Hopefully there'll be some on the aftermarket, though I don't think so, because it's just such a fun watch to own and wear. Already I can say that. But again, it's another fresh new taste and flavor in watchmaking. I'm all for it. In the same way that we did a really fun and cool watch with Bamford, Way and Revolution have done the same thing. Well done, guys. Round of applause for this jazz sonata that we've captured on the wrist today. And if you enjoyed this video, it's very late in the game to be saying this, but you really should be a subscriber because we do this all the time. Thanks for watching. Thanks, guys, for a great watch. And I'm gonna go and play with this in the dark.